Hello. I was going to talk today about how ridiculous creationism is, but I decided instead to talk about something a bit more interesting because everyone knows how stupid creationism is, and in particular how stupid, how deluded creationists are. Uneducated as well, better word. Creationism, I will give a brief overview, doesn't make any sense for the following reason. I think there doesn't need to be any more reason than this one. What they're basically saying is that the universe couldn't have come into being by itself, and they always say the phrase, something cannot come out of nothing. So what they're basically saying is that there must have been some intelligence or something which brought the universe into being. Now, deists believe this. Deists are people who are generally they sort of had a lot of vogue going for them around the Enlightenment period, like the founding fathers of America. They were deists because the scientific thought hadn't advanced far enough to actually tell them things like the Big Bang theory and advanced astrophysics that we have today. So they had to postulate, even though they knew that the world was not created, because it's ridiculous and illogical, but they couldn't work out how the universe came into being, because of course this whole something from nothing thing, Newtonian physics. So of course they had to postulate something which came first and created the universe the way it is. So obviously they didn't all necessarily call it God. I mean, you can call it whatever you like, but to say it's a Christian God is rather absurd anyway. It's one of millions of gods to choose from, so ridiculous. Anyway, that's deism. Creationists then believe this, but the one reason I mentioned earlier, which means that it's not even valid as a theory, even as a hypothesis, if you put this forward, it'll be immediately thrown out for this following reason. You can't postulate something more complicated than that which you're trying to explain in the first place. So they're trying to, they're merely, we're going back now to the beginning of the universe, basic elements, hydrogen, how did it come into being in the first place? Because we know what happened after the Big Bang. We know this. But the saying is that God done it, and therefore they're not actually, they're posing themselves a much more difficult question to answer, which is, what done God? Because a creature, intelligence, that's actually capable of literally creating universes like some sort of ridiculous mage from a fantasy novel, presumably must have come into being by something even more complicated than itself. So this is what we call an infinite regress. In other words, you just keep going back and back and back logically until you get, it's infinite. And you never explain anything. So you're actually not answering the question by saying that. So you're out of the argument straight away. Those of us who try and come up with a better explanation are, of course, remaining in the argument, and we're the ones who should be debating it, thrashing it out amongst ourselves, without the nonsensical creationist lobby throwing in their bag of fish on the side. Although fish is considerably more tasty and amenable to the palate than creationism, which justifies as justifies something like some geocentric type attitude, which is that the entire universe is made with you in mind, or the universe has got, the Earth has got some special place in the universe because it's God's special creation, blah blah blah. Rubbish. Complete rubbish. So that was creationism, and another thing I wanted to talk about today was nothing really, but I'm just going to make something up. And that is, I'm off work today for a week, and it's just really fascinating. I've been lying about in bed, I've been reading, it's wanky stuff, honestly. Stop talking about gender, and you start talking about, what is it? Oh yeah. Anyway, sort of wanky, pretentious novelists who sort of go on about the spiral narrative, and it's all very complete nonsense. Of course, what are they talking about? These people, they're just writing. You're not. Oh, sorry. Matthew's given me some horrible thing. Anyway, it's like you're writing. You're not bloody, manipulating rock. It's absurd. You're writing a novel. The spiral narrative. For God's sake. Or not for God's sake, in fact. For sense's sake. For reason's sake. So that's that as well. I think that I'll leave that there for today, actually.